All right, happy Friday, everybody. It's Michelle Town here with Mortgage Coach. I'm sitting in for Dave Savage today, and I am really excited, you guys. We've got two incredible people that are going to help you get into the right mindset for the end of 2018 and push you into 2019. So I want everybody to please welcome Daniel Harkavy and Tim Braheem. Everybody knows it. We're going to do stuff a little bit differently today. We're going to let them kind of bounce off each other and chat. And so we're going to please raise your hand when you see that you have some questions, because Marcy and I will call on you guys, or Daniel and Tim will also have access to the chat room. But we want this to be, remember, impactful for you. If we sit up here talking about what we want to talk about, it helps us. But if we sit here and talk about what you need to hear, that's going to help you. So thank you again. Tim, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And Daniel, I was sharing something I did their experience about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was the start of the first step of me getting out of my head and making my head better, or making my mindset better. So, and Tim, I watch his YouTube videos all the time. I mean, probably once a week they come to me in my email, and I just listen to them, and I get so much value. So without further ado, Daniel and Tim, you take it away, and thank you guys again so much for being here to help us.
Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I love hearing how you've been impacted by what Tim's doing and what we've been able to do. And that's why I know I speak on behalf of Tim. That's why we do what we get to do. So everybody, it's fantastic to be with you. And I wish that we could let you in behind the scenes to understand the excitement that I know I feel to have the opportunity to be sharing with my very good friend, Tim Braheem, who I think the world of. And Tim and I have journeyed together for a few decades. We started off early together, probably 20 plus years ago, and we haven't talked in quite a while. And I am looking forward to just kind of the energy that takes place between the two of us, and us sharing whatever we can to help you to finish the year well and to come into 19 with that right mindset, so that you can make 2019 the best year possible. So Tim, good to be with you, man.
Yeah, nice to be with you too. It has been far too long, and I'm super excited to share this hour with you and learn from you, and have the rest of the people watching hopefully get some really nice information going into the next year.
Right on, right on. So Tim and I, we actually connected about 7 minutes ago, and in talking about what it is that we wanted to share, we just wanted to have a conversation that would kind of build from this point to the end of the call, where we've had interaction with you who are joining us, and how we can help you to be in that absolute best mindset as we're hitting December, tomorrow, and how do we help you to finish 2018 really well, and then move into 2019 with clarity around where you need to be growing, where you need to be investing your time, and how you can just bring more value to everybody around you, so that you have the most fulfilling, intentional, purposeful year possible. So Tim, I'll hit it on over to you. I mean, do you have some opening thoughts?
Sure. Gosh, what just popped in, a lot of times I just go by what drops in, right? Like, I think you probably know what that means. And I just had a thought drop in when you were speaking about like how you can finish the year correctly, and some of the things to be looking out for going into the next year. So finishing the year correctly, like I think it's really critical right now to be thinking about 2019, and maybe using the month of December when you have some downtime to structure a business and life plan for yourself. I mean, you and I probably have 50 years or so of cumulative teaching experience in the subject matter of business planning and life planning. We both do it in our professions. I used to do it back in the day with my seminars. I learned it from you back when you were coaching me in the 1990s. You were my first coach. And I think that there's some real importance, right, in having some structure, building some of your own accountability, really getting away from the business as you once taught us, and working on it, and building something that you can get your head around and have some clarity around, rather than being as my former time management coach, David Allen, used to say, reacting to whatever's screaming at you latest and loudest, right? Like, so avoiding being in that type of an environment can really be possible if you create a clear plan. And what popped into my head was this morning I was getting my morning routine going, and a client of mine texted me, and she wants to go to Italy. She was moving, and she found this oil painting that she had of Portofino, and she said, it's my dream to go to Italy. I've never been there. I saw this. I know that you're passionate about Italy. And as my coach, I just wanted to put it out there. And I said, well, then just book the airfare. And her response was, I can't, I don't want to go alone. And my response was, exactly. That's why you need to book the airfare. And my point in bringing this up is that I think that self-awareness around your business and life plan is critically important, and really paying attention, Daniel, to where you have resistance to things, right? Yeah. Because that resistance is the limiting belief in many cases, and is the seedling for your growth edge, right? So there's an opportunity, if you can lean into the resistance, to create a whole new reality for yourself. And how this dovetails into business planning and life planning is it's kind of one of the most important components of it in my mind, which is like getting real with what are the things that you know that you should have done in 2018 in your business, but you didn't because you had resistance to it. And what is that resistance exactly? And how can you work with that? Not throwing yourself into the swimming pool, without a life preserver when you don't know how to swim, but like, how can you put your toes in the water, and then your ankles, and then your knees, and slowly ease into it and confront the fear. Because on the other side of it is oftentimes an entirely new life. So I'll just kind of tee it up from there, and let's bounce back and forth. What are your thoughts on that? And what do you coach your clients on as it relates to that?
Well, so you're hitting a real a big pain point for so many, and that is there's a desire to experience more, there's a desire to be more, but there's that narrative, that voice that plays, and it's running like that operating system behind the scenes, and it's telling us why we can't, right? And it's telling us why we shouldn't, and it's telling us where the risk is. And I think you're spot on. If we will just take that first step and make that commitment, that first step, it's like a flywheel, it leads to the second step. And all of a sudden we start moving into that direction, and we can experience so much good and so much new. And I look at your first point in taking advantage of December and the possible space that December presents for you, and not squandering it. So Tim, I'm here in Santa Barbara, and I've got probably close to 40 people down in the room for our Masters Coach. I think this is probably the 21st year where in December, everybody yesterday did exactly what you did when you were in the Masters Coach on the first day of the December event. And everybody took all day yesterday to sit out in the midst of a little bit of stormy weather and work on their life plans. And the first thing that they did, we have people prepare themselves to create their life plan by writing out their eulogy, because that helps you to come to grips with the fact that at some point that will be read. And if you can get that into your heart and not be deceived that you've got tomorrow to get to the Italy trip, or tomorrow to start taking better care of yourself, or tomorrow to pour more into him or her or them, it creates this awareness of today's the day to take that risk. Today's the day to push yourself forward. So in capturing your big points, Tim, I would say number one, people, schedule some time, a day to go somewhere that's out of the norm, and really evaluate where you are versus where you want to be. And I'm sure Tim has tools. We have tools that will give you a framework, so you're not sitting there staring at your navel. We'll give you a process you can walk through gratis. But taking the time's the big deal. And then figuring out what one area are you pushing up against that resistance, and make the courageous decision. Do one thing to move forward. I think it's spot on, Tim.
Well, so much of our To piggyback off that a little further, our resistance is always based upon past conditioning and experiences, right? So we have a story, as you said, an operating system that sometimes needs to be updated, right? Sometimes you need to drag that one into trash. Yep. and re-download a new operating system. But before we do that, it's, I think, critically important to understand what's driving that operating system. There's a really great book that we have all of our clients read before they come down to their Costa Rica retreat with us in the Leadership 360 program, called The Big Leap. It's written by a gentleman by the name of Gay Hendricks. And it's a book about upper limit beliefs. It's a book about the storyteller that exists inside of all of us. And what I would offer is that it's not as easy as in many people's cases. It can be about you just deciding, I'm not going to believe that anymore. But sometimes these stories are deeply rooted. So let's just go with an example that really hits home to an originator. Maybe you wanted to, over the last 12 months, cultivate 3 to 5 new relationships with potential. Been out of the cave and out into the field to hunt. You haven't been connecting in the way that that you really need to be. We could talk a little bit more about connection in a bit, because I think that's a really important piece to the whole subject matter of referral partner relationships. Versus strategically trying to trick people into working with you, which I think is what a lot of people do. But you haven't done so, and you don't know why. And it's important to understand that the agreements that we make with ourselves are vital, right? Like, it has everything to do with our level of trust in ourselves. So every time we make a commitment, such as writing a business plan, that we're going to do something, and then we don't execute on it, we start to lose faith in our own word. And that becomes kind of a snowball. And then the tape that starts playing in the background is, yeah, you're not going to do this. Yeah, you always commit to things that you're going to do, and you don't follow through. Yep. And that can become very defeating. And the real important thing is to not get into the self-judgmental game. Because the game of self-judgment and self-criticism is wicked and leads us down the exact opposite path that we want to go to. And most of us haven't been taught how to be self-compassionate and to really get curious. So curiosity is a super important word that I'd like everybody to really start to try to embrace going into 2019. Steer clear of the self-judgment and get into curiosity. Like my favorite phrase, or one of my favorite phrases is, because that kind of embodies curiosity, right? Like, I wonder why I didn't execute on that. What was holding me back? What did I feel in my body when it was time to go out and call on agents and I didn't? And oftentimes when we practice this level of curiosity and get really into a space of neutrality within ourselves, a non-judgmental, neutral position, what starts to surface is some real experiences that we've had in the past. And many people have been beaten up, emotionally in the past with rejection. It may have been in business, and it may be pre-business. It may have been, that you weren't popular in school, or that you didn't have parents that were particularly supportive of who you really were. And you then, therefore, going into the business realm, kind of steer clear of anything that could feel the same, right? Like, you call on somebody and they don't give you the appointment. They tell you that they're busy when you know that they really aren't. And then it starts to feel icky again, right? It starts to feel like that old wound, that old memory from the past. And the key to really being able to move through that is to evoke self-compassion. And that's not something that's particularly easy. I'm going to give you another book. I'll probably be throwing out a few during this call, but one of my favorite books that I like to prescribe, if you will, to my clients that need this type of work is a book called Lovability by Robert Holden. And it's a wonderful book. I've read it twice. It's a book about how to love yourself, which, when you think about it, Daniel, and I'll toss it over to you now, it's like, not many of us had the parental guidance and or the guidance of elders when we were younger that taught us how to really care about ourselves and to see our own goodness. And when we start to see our own goodness, when we start to realize that we are worthy, it becomes far less personal when somebody says no to you. We're taking it very personally, of course, all of us do, me included, when someone rejects us, but it's often almost always not personal. It's something that they've got going on. And that's what I think stops people from calling on potential new referral partners going into their business plan, is that they're still taking it very personally when they get a no, and then they just steer clear of that, because none of us like to feel rejection.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Daniel, on that?
Yeah. So, buddy, I mean, you're jumping right into the deep end of the pool and talking about who we are as humans, and the negative tapes, the fear, the narrative, identity, and understanding who we are, who we've been designed to be, and moving out of that place where we're living in these imaginary bars, this imaginary cage that holds us back from being who we truly can become. And in the last 23 plus years of work that we've done, where you see the biggest breakthroughs are where you get people to understand who they are, who they truly are, and not buying that 13-year-old, 11-year-old story that's manifesting itself in your 54-year-old body. And you're spot on. And we do need to be educated and to become more aware of just the psychology and what goes on in our heads and in our hearts, and how that impacts how we show up. It impacts how we connect with others. The word curiosity is one that is center stage for a book that I'm just about finished with. So I'll have a book come out next year around leadership effectiveness. In that book, I'm talking about how your effectiveness is determined by two things: the decisions you make and the influence you have. Let's take leadership and really just boil it down to those two things. And in there, I say that you need to see your business from 7 different perspectives, and you need to be intentionally curious. Intentional curiosity is your best friend. Now, I want to talk about finishing 2018 and moving into 2019 and just build upon this foundation that you've set. Because what a lot of originators and mortgage professionals are dealing with right now is a level of anxiety and a level of fear, uncertainty, as a result of some of the disruptive threats that are taking place. And today, we still coach a lot of people in the mortgage banking industry, but the percentage of people in mortgage banking versus all the other industries we coach has definitely shifted over the past decade plus. And what I've learned in a lot of the other industries that we coach in is I have learned how other business leaders who lead in cyclical markets get into that right mindset, and then how they apply discipline, process, and rigor so that they can best position their people to flourish and succeed in times of change. Mortgage banking, 2019, coming out of 2018, where margin compression has been overused. It's the big topic. You know, the fear is, oh no, is the industry going to change our compensation? Is Amazon going to get into the space? You know, you hear all this stuff. And I want you to understand that what we're talking about right now is the foundational starting place. So post-Cold War, the military came up with the term VUCA. And post-Cold War, when the landscape changed and we no longer had one big enemy in the US, all of a sudden, we were wondering how the world was going to evolve. Our military said that we're now living in a state of VUCA, V, volatility, U, uncertainty, C, complexity, A, ambiguity. VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Well, when you look at your industry and you're worried about disruption, we need to be thinking about how do we lead ourselves in a season of VUCA. It's very much the same. What happens to us humans is we can become paralyzed by the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And what's driving it right now is the pace of change because of technology. That and globalization and social changes all play into it, but the pace of change with technology is changing the game, creating new efficiencies and opportunities. All right, if we're coming into 2019, and some of us are feeling the emotions of fear or of shame or of this uncertainty, these emotions are negative. And if we don't channel them and change them to drive this intentional curiosity, to find opportunity, because there's always opportunity in change. If we don't lean into what's possible, we will allow these imaginary bars in this cage to hold us back. So what Tim and I are talking about is, please take the time to really assess and take inventory of your current state. What assets do you have that are really working well? What systems and processes do you have that are working really well in your origination business? And where are you bumping up against resistance? Where you bump up against resistance is where you need new energy. You need new learning. You need new belief. You need somebody, something to help you to equip yourself with new tooling so that you can move through that. And sometimes it's a book. Tim's giving you new energy solutions where you can read something and it will cause you to look at your business or your life differently. And that shift can then equip you to take those steps that we're talking about. So it can be a book. It can be working with a coach. It can be attending an event. It can be hanging out with people in different industries who have had to do what you're having to do right now. So in December, carve out at least a day or two to work on yourself and on your business. Don't try to tackle too much. Take one or two frameworks to walk you through a process and come out of that knowing where you're going to get the new energy, where you're going to get the new equipping, the new tooling, so that you can move through this time of VUCA, get out of fear, get out of that angst into optimism and opportunity. Because I can tell you this, 2019 is going to be filled with opportunity. There's always opportunities to reinvent yourself. There's always opportunities to add more value. Tim mentioned something else, and I want to make sure it lands with all of you. Let's just say that AI continues to do what it's doing, and Watson takes a big chunk out of the mortgage space. It really creates some efficiencies, and there's less people in mortgage banking 5 years from now. Okay, if that takes place, what's going to matter most for you in your career is going to be the relationships that you have and how do you use technology to continue to position you to be present and adding into all of the people you need to add into to add even more value. In 2019, your success will be determined by the discipline that you have to create relationship and put yourself face to face with people that you know and people that you don't know that you need to know. And the more that you do that in 2019, the better positioned you will be to find the opportunities to deliver value and then to shift as the business continues to shift. So, I mean, we could dive deep onto any one of these topics and lead a full 8-hour session on it, Tim. But I mean, you're hitting on the right stuff. And yeah, I'll pause now and let you roll.
No, super well articulated. Thank you. I'm going to comment on the VUCA. I'd never heard that acronym before, so that was super cool. I appreciate you bringing that forward. You know, it's interesting as you were describing that, like the thought that went through my head is that, you know, what we choose to focus on, what we choose to think about, our thoughts, that tape that's playing in the back of our head, it's going to manifest. I mean, you're going to call that into your life. I mean, the interesting thing about the mind and the ego is that it wants to prove itself right. Okay, that's how it works. What you think about, you will then start to look at things through a perceptual filter in your life, through that lens that will seek to prove those thoughts correct. So if you are in a scarcity mindset, if you are allowing yourself to focus on the subject matter of compression and fintech and how we're not going to be in, by the way, I got something I got to share. When Daniel was coaching me in 1997, I was hearing about how we weren't going to be in the business in 5 years. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't worry about it at all. But what I'm saying is I've been hearing this for 2 decades now. Okay. It's the same story, how we're going to become obsolete, the analogy to the travel agent. I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. And I'll tell you why. I have 2 clients, Mike Watson and Greg Kingsbury, who are like identical twins, even though they don't look anything like each other, who are 2 great loan originators and great people I know. They're having phenomenal years this year, phenomenal years, doing 30 plus units a month in this environment. Why? Because they both own between 12 and 15 completely loyal, deeply rooted relationships. So they are insulated because they have connection on a deep level with referral partners. And what Daniel's hitting on that I think is really important, and I think that the formula going forward, in a minute I'm going to give you two subject matters that I think should be a part of your 2019 business plan, just two tactical things. But what Daniel's talking about is marrying technology with connection. How do you use technology to create deeper connection and a deeply penetrated relationship with people, with your past clients, with your referral partners, and with prospective new clients? And there's all kinds of tactical ways to do that. And for the sake of time, I won't get into them. But the two things, and maybe Daniel, you could think about two things that you would have in any of your clients' business plan in 2019. But for me, there's really two key things. One is to really take a deep look at what your approach is to cultivating referral partner relationships. And I want to use that as a more of a broad term, not just realtors, because I think that we can get real narrow in our scope. Referral partner relationships can extend into the spouses of your client, which is often a missed opportunity. You know, not taking advantage of connecting with both parties in every transaction. A lot of the times it's that person you're not talking to that is actually more social and a greater potential advocate of you if you take the time to build a deeply connected relationship with that person. But realtors, accountants, financial planners, life insurance agents, divorce attorneys, local small bankers, these are all really valuable partners that you should be looking to cultivate connection with. And I'm doing a call on Tuesday with Dave within this forum, and we're going to go really deep on the subject matter of connection and what that really means. So I won't go into it now, but what I will say is this: it's not about strategy. People can feel when you're being strategic and you have an agenda. Remember this, okay? This is an important thing that I want everybody to remember. Nobody reciprocates with takers. Okay? So if you're coming into that relationship as a taker, you have completely throttled the opportunity for reciprocity. Go into it as a giver with no agenda other than to help and to be of service, and trust that the rest will take care of itself. So having a plan to cultivate new, deep relationships and going deeper the ones that you have is number one. And number two is this is the time to really sharpen your skills as a deal structurer and as somebody who knows how to present alternative product. Okay. Those of you that have been in the business for only 7 or 8 years or less probably don't even know how to sell half the programs that are available in the marketplace because you haven't had to. You've been selling a 30-year and a 15-year for the last 7 or 8 years. You've been selling rate. Okay, only rate. And what I'm saying is that going forward, there's a different sell that needs to be presented. And that sell is payment and asset accumulation through the investment in real estate. So things like 2-1 buy downs, hybrid arms, 40-year amortized interest-only loans to help provide alternative options to people that may make more sense for them is really important. When I look back at my career, and I'm thinking that 1 or 2 of these big relationships that I had were when I was coaching with you, Daniel. I had maybe 4 or 5 relationships that when I look back, I go, wow, like that changed my life. Yep. Like that person spawned so many additional relationships because of that one relationship that like my career completely changed. When I look at those 5 relationships, they all came from me knowing how to do a tough deal. Yes. They all came from me understanding how to structure something that 3 or 4 other lenders that came before me couldn't. Like, I don't know if you remember, Daniel, I think you were coaching me when I was doing a lot of business in Ojai. Like yep. That whole valley up there became mine because I got one really hard deal done that 4 banks could not get done. And it was in a market just like the one that we're in right now, where we were transitioning, where it wasn't quite so easy. But I went back and I met with underwriters, I met with accountants. I started to really understand my craft on another level. So I was equipped and ready to take advantage of opportunities that came in front of me that had I not done so, I would have been one of the same people that said, no, this deal can't get done. And wow, like we're talking maybe $250,000 in lost income annually because I couldn't get it done, So those two things, like really taking seriously in your planning about how to structure deals that maybe you've gotten a little lazy with, how to sell product that you maybe aren't familiar with, how to present it in a way that makes sense to the client, and then cultivating new deep relationships that are truly connection based. Those are two things I'd have in my plan. What about you?
Well, so those are super solid. And I sit here and I just marvel at how for the last 30 years now, I've been in this business. And I think about when I was an originator and when I used to manage a branch and had a crew of originators, and then when I ran production and had branches everywhere. One of the things that I would always say is that if you want to be the absolute best, you need to know how to structure a deal better than does an underwriter. So you need to be a student of 4155. You need to know every aspect of it. You need to know all guidelines. And that has to be so important to you that you have a discipline of studying and understanding. When those updates come, they're not a pain in the butt. Those are opportunities for you to know more than does your competition. So Tim, you're hitting on something that this is 3 decades of belief, and it hasn't changed. It has not changed. You need to be the most knowledgeable in the whole marketplace, which means that, we're talking to you because our assumption is you're on this call right now because you want to be the best. And if you want to be the best, you need to commit a few hours a week to study, to knowledge, to understanding your trade. And you have to be a master of it. And that in itself will get you onto the playing field. The second piece of you not having what we call commission breath and being a giver versus a taker. It's really difficult if you are financially strapped. And I know there are some of you who have experienced some income decline from 27 to 2018. Not all. Some of you are having better 2018s than you had 2017. But what we're talking about here is if you're in this place to where you need every single opportunity and you're going in from this place of, I absolutely need, people feel that. And there will be some people that might take pity on you and they'll give you a shot, and maybe you'll get 1 or 2 opportunities because you are really, really persistent. But what we're talking about here is that those that are the absolute best, there is something in them back to identity, back to purpose and vision for your business, to where you need to be able to endure the difficulty. And if this means that you need to figure out how to restructure your living expenses right now, if this means that you need to figure out where to borrow or where you can get some extra income for a period of time because the pressure is so big, you need to get out of that survival commission breath mindset. And you need to be completely committed to helping people to solve problems. You need to be that guy or that gal to wherever, when somebody is with you and they have an interaction with you, the effect you have on them is that they are better equipped. They have a solution to their challenge. They have an idea for their opportunity because you came in looking to help people. I say every day we need to be flipping the switches up on the hearts of everybody that we work with. So here we are, we're talking about a business discipline when you're putting your plan together, but it's birthed out of who you see yourself being and the value you bring to your business world, which should be the exact same value that you bring to everybody else around you. All right, so if we're going to talk about specific disciplines and how do we look at our business plan so that our plan shows the specific non-negotiable things that we need to be investing in each and every day and each and every week. One of the ones that I would add, and I've been talking about it for the last few decades, and Tim was a master of it, truly one of the best coaches that I've ever worked with. Always humble, always hungry, always very teachable, Mr. Braheem. And that's why today you're in the position and have the platform that you have. But this one you took to heart, and that was on time. Tim mentioned it earlier. The best of the best get out of this reactive busyness where this thing's driving every aspect of our waking to our going to bed, and we put it to the side. And I'm going to ask all of you, I know you're busy and I know your inboxes are very full and you're not getting through your task list every day. But I'm going to ask you to commit to no less than 4 hours a week, and Friday is ideal, to working on your business. The best of the best will spend between 4 and 8 hours a week working on their business. They hover above it and they look at, where are the pain points? Where are we having common breakdowns? Where are we being held back? How do we add more value? You need to think about your business. If you don't think about your business, then you'll hit this lid of knowledge, because all you're doing is responding and reacting to everything coming your way. Nothing gets innovated. Nothing gets improved or created when you're in reaction mode all the time. You need to create space, and see so much value in creating space to intentionally look at those pain points in your business and at those opportunities. To look at your long-term vision, which needs to drive your strategy. And then you need to make adjustments, continual adjustments. So my number one is on time, a discipline of it. And what I've seen in our business for the last 30 plus years is Fridays are a great time to do it. And here we are on Friday, and you guys are actually doing it right now because you're learning. You're listening to us and you're sitting there saying, how can I improve? So you're in that student mode. Don't end this call and then jump into the next thing. Spend a half an hour, read through your notes, pick 1 or 2 things that you're going to pour into. You're going to make a discipline of something Tim shared, a discipline of something I shared. You're going to calendar that day or two to reflect and to plan, to assess, and to innovate for 2019. So on time would be one of the non-negotiable disciplines. And then I would be very, very specific with regards to new relationships. And Tim gave you a whole host of opportunities, whether it's financial planners or whether it's HR directors or whether it's spouses of the business leader that you might have taken the application for. Or what about listing agents? How many of you are actively meeting with listing agents on every single deal to make sure that you're crystal clear on what their expectations are and how you can help the listing agent win with the seller? Because the seller is probably going to be buying a home too. And if you make it a practice to always sit down and meet with your listing agents and to understand how you can help them to win with their clients, I guarantee you, you're going to be working with more agents in the year ahead. So you pick who it is that's new that you need to begin adding value to, and you make a commitment to meeting with 2 of them a day, with 5 of them a week. What's that number based upon where your business is at and what you can realistically get done? And then make the commitment. And don't say this. Don't say, I'm going to meet with more attorneys, or I'm going to meet with more agents, or I'm going to meet with financial planners. Be really specific. You build out your list of who, and then you identify how many daily or weekly, and then you share that with other people. Because when you go public with it, there's a level of accountability that comes. You know, I know when I share with people, I am writing another book. I need to write the other book because I want to be a man of integrity that does what I say I'm going to do. Go public with what it is that you're going to do. 2 or 3 of these people each and every day. 5 of these people every week. You share that with Coach Tim. You share that with the Building Champions coach. You share that with your branch manager. You share that with another loan officer who says, come on, man, as iron sharpens iron, let's help each other. A couple things that I think will help.
You know, one of the things I remember, you and I were sitting at the back of the room in San Diego 20 years ago at an event that you and Todd were hosting, and you whispered to me, you said, why is it that when everybody gets the most busy and needs on time the most is when they abort? And I'll never forget that, because it's like, wow, like that's so true. Like that's the time when you need it the most, is when you are crazy. You need that like downtime to cultivate the creative aspect within you and to be able to look at things from 50,000 feet and be able to assess from a truly objective perspective rather than a fear-based flying by the seat of your pants perspective. So I'm glad that you brought that one up. I mean, I'm fortunate now to work on my business a lot more than I ever have. And I think it's why it's a lot more fun because it's actually really fun to be creative. It's not a whole lot of fun to be reactive and to be putting out fires. So you need to build that discipline in. There's in the chat window, Brad is asking for the names of those two books. So let me get that off my plate real quick. One of them is called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and the other one is called Lovability by Robert Holden. You know, Daniel, there's something that you said that was, I think, really an important thing that I'd like to elaborate a little bit further on, which is that, you know, when we are in this mode of scarcity, you know, and you bring up such an outstanding point. There are people out there that are watching this that are in fear right now, right? Like, I mean, that's reality. And I know that I'm going to get a tiny bit metaphysical here, but this isn't even really metaphysical. This is fact. I mean, this is scientific fact, is that we are all energetic beings that are vibrating at different frequencies. And whether you've ever been exposed to this thought process or not, if you really think about it, you've experienced this. If there are certain people that come into your life and you're just like, wow, like, I love being around that person. Like, they are intoxicating. Like, I want to hang out with them more. And then there are other people that you're like, geez, like, I can't wait for this to be done. And what you're experiencing is their energetic vibration. Okay. Now, if you're going out into the field, if you will, vibrating at a low frequency out of fear and scarcity, don't kid yourself for a second. That's going to be picked up on. It may not be cognitive, but people are going to feel that and they're going to resist it. And when I say they're going to resist it, what's really going to happen is their guard's going to go up. They're going to protect themselves from that frequency. Okay. And you've felt this before where people are just like they're closed. Watch body language. They do this. Okay. That's not by accident. They're protecting themselves physically on a subconscious level, versus if you're going out there with some bounce in your step and some joy, and you're vibrating at a higher frequency, they're going to want to hang out with you even longer than the scheduled appointment. Now, how do we get ourselves into that space is the key thing, right? Like, so it's not like you just go, okay, I'm going to vibrate high today. I mean, I wish it were that easy, but it's not. I know Daniel's going to have something to say about this, because I remember our hike in Oregon to those amazing waterfalls where we had that beautiful conversation 15 years ago or whatever it was. But for me, I think it's very much about you having in your plan. So I'm going to add now to your business and life plan, okay, the critical discipline of knowing what it takes to shift your energy state. Okay. For some people, it's prayer. For some people, it's meditation. Okay. For others, it can be dance. It can be playing music. It can be listening to certain types of music. It can be journaling. A really effective, I was just watching, there's a great show on the internet that I watch all the time called Impact Theory. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, Daniel, but it's an interview show that has some of the most amazing high-level thinkers that are interviewed. And I was just watching Tim Ferriss's interview yesterday, and he talked about something that I was taught in school when I got my master's in spiritual psychology a decade ago, that is called freeform writing, but he didn't call it that. But what he does is he starts off every day by taking out a yellow legal pad, and he will write until he's done all of the things that he's pissed off about, all of the things that he's frustrated with. Okay, because there's something that happens when you get it out of your consciousness and onto paper, and you tear it up and you throw it away. And now he starts his day free of those anxiety riddling thoughts that he's having, free of those angry thoughts that he's having for maybe something that he didn't get done yesterday. And he's clearing the energy space. Okay. So for me, I'm going to try to start doing that. I'd love to hear maybe some ideas, Daniel, that you have of how to help people get into a higher vibrational state. But I'll just share with you mine. If I know that if I'm getting up 3 hours before my day starts, that's really what I need. And I move slow. I make my breakfast. I do my meditation for 30 minutes every morning. In my meditation, I send love to people in my life, including to myself. Most importantly, I start with sending love to myself. I start by acknowledging 3 things about myself in my meditation that I love about myself. Okay. And then I send love to other people that come forward in my meditation. And then I listen to some music. And then I energetically release my body by doing yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or go for a slow walk, where in my neighborhood, there's a lot of trees and a lot of nature. And I'm in California, so it's sunny most of the time, which is nice. If I start that way and maybe do a little journaling and do my 5-minute journal, which involves gratitude, and then I enter into my day, I'm a different person in every way with who I'm engaging with throughout the day. If you go to all of the religions of the world, the yogis of the Himalayas, the Gregorian monks, and the Christian priests, it's not a coincidence that they all start their day between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning with prayer and with whatever type of morning routine. It's because you're changing your state of vibration, so you're showing up as a different human being throughout the day. Try that. And then see who you're showing up with when you go on a realtor appointment or when you're meeting with a client. Do you have a greater level of patience? Do you have a greater level of centeredness? Are you coming more from your heart? Is it easier for you to cultivate that giving mindset rather than the scarcity mindset? I offer that if you do that for 30 days, only 30 days, it's not that big of a commitment, you're going to notice a difference. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
I think that's actually all crap. And I think
Okay.
I think you need to watch the news and respond to Facebook every day so that you can realize how miserable life is and how you're missing out on everything. No. Tim is hitting on the single most valuable part of our call right now, because you're hearing us talk about very tactical things, such as calling on more people and being really specific with your plan. And then you're hearing us talk about the deep things with regards to our identity and the narratives. And you hear all of this. And I know for many of you, you're saying, what is it that I can take a hold of right now and do? And we've got 30 or 40 folks here at the Four Seasons for our Master's Coach program. And they're going to hear from me the exact same thing people have been hearing from me for the past few decades. Let me watch your first hour of your day, and I will tell you what kind of day you're going to have. Tim, it's what we talked about when we were taking that hike up in the gorge of Oregon. Let me see your first hour. Let me see what it is that you're waking up to. And that will set the trajectory of your day. Tim and I are going through life, and we're going through our journeys, and we have different theologies with regards to whether it's vibrations or whether it's the spirit in us, right? You're going to hear us approach it differently. And it's beautiful. You're amazing. For me, my mornings have been starting the same way for decades, where I'm up, I start my hot water, I make my tea, I go over in front of the fireplace, I'm face down, child's pose, I'm hands out, and I am praying. And I pray the same way every day. I have a specific prayer that helps me to understand my little place in this earth and what's possible through me. It always starts with immense gratitude. I read the scriptures, I drink my tea, I do some exercise that helps me from the midsection so I don't injure my back as I'm still out there surfing and snowboarding all the time. And my morning routine it's a vacation for me. It gets me into this absolute state of mind where I realize how blessed I am, how grateful I am, and how aware I am of truly what matters most. No, I'm not looking at Facebook or Instagram. No, I'm not looking at the news. I'm not looking at things that I can't control or things that will cause me to not focus on the path that I'm on. I want to understand how every day I can be used to flip switches up on the hearts of everybody that I come into contact with. And for me, that's prayer. It's through the Bible. It's through absolute gratitude and praying for everybody. Tim says sending love, and I am praying for favor in love for everybody that comes to mind. And yeah, always myself, because I'm a work in progress, a grateful work in progress. So what Tim and I are both telling you is if you want to change relationships, if you want to improve results, if you want to go through life with more fulfillment and more intentionality, look at the first hour or so of your day. Look at what pace you wake up. Don't be a person that's hitting snooze, 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 and then rush yourself with coffee and a power bar on the way to work and responding all the time. Don't start behind. I'm working with organizations now, Tim, where our largest client's out of Germany, and they have facilities around the world, 180,000 people in the organization around the world, and we work with a lot of their leaders. They live in a 24/7 reality, 24/7. So when these people wake up in the Northwest, they're already behind because Germany's just going to bed and they've been sending them emails and requests all night long. And you cannot possibly keep up with all of the requests or, hey, comments on. You can't keep up with it. And if you wake up and you make that the first thing that you see, well, you just need to realize that you're now behind. And nobody wants to start their day off behind. Start your day off on the offense. Understanding perspective, 50,000 feet, what matters most? Put good stuff into you, and then good stuff comes out of you.
Guys, I'm going to jump in for a second. Sorry, Tim.
No
we have about 10 minutes left, guys. So everybody on this call, we have 118 people listening. So I am sure some people have some questions that I want to make sure to get out. But a couple of things I wanted to touch base on that resonate with me. I have been originating for 10 years. I've been in this business for 29. I built my business in understanding my product. 2 years ago, I saw the shift in the market, and I moved myself out of that 30 and 15-year market and made myself go back to what was important to me, which was the out-of-the-box stuff. I needed the critical thinking. That's where I do the best, and that's where I do the best help for my clients and realtors. One of the things that really touched base and almost made me start crying was I had to go to a spiritual advisor about 3 years ago because I was stuck. I wouldn't get on video. And she's like, why won't you get on video? And so my coach is Cindy Ertman, and she goes, maybe let's try some different things. So I went to this spiritual advisor, and we dialed it down to, I was the 7th grade girl that got the loogie spit on me out of the bus. And that's what I saw myself as till I was 47 years old. And I couldn't get past it, which is why I didn't get on video, which is so sad, right? We let that thinking, that stinking thinking take care of you. But you guys, what they're telling you today is working on yourself and letting go of some of that stuff is so incredible. I also got to hear Casey Cunningham speak, and she said something that very resonated with me, which was, she was telling a story about one of her coworkers who passed away. And she said, and when they opened up his drawer after he had died, there was a note in there that said, if I've died today, know I lived my life yesterday. So, which is so powerful. And if you can take that into your heart and understand what that means, and what these, Tim and Daniel are telling you right now is, don't let obstacles stop you. You're as great as your mind is going to allow you to be. So test yourself, push yourself beyond what you think you can do. And I think you're going to be incredibly successful in whatever you want to do. And it doesn't mean that you're going to go be an astronaut tomorrow, but it means that you're going to have the possibility and opportunity. You're going to create that opportunity to be that person. We do have two questions. One quote from Will Rudolph. He said, Dan's quote for today was, at times we feel stuck. While common, it doesn't make sense because we are constantly surrounded by the thousands of available options. We are only stuck in our own beliefs. Mine below is when as a child, we believed in Santa Claus. However, now we don't even believe in ourselves. And so, Will, thank you for sharing just believe. I agree. Believe is my word. When I went to the event oh my gosh, my brain is stopping. In Oregon, I had to define that word for me, and that word was believe. I believe in everything. Monica Grice has a question. So when you get hit or the anxieties of the day start to build up, how do you refocus and get that morning peace again? Great question.
Yeah, really good question.
I'll take a shot at Monica's first, if you don't mind, Daniel.
Oh,
But before I do, what I want to share with you, Daniel, just because I want to ruin your day, as a friend, is there's about an 8 to 10 foot swell at Rincon right now.
dude, I know. I'm here. I know. And I have my gear, so you won't ruin my day.
Well, hey, if you're in town all weekend, maybe we ought to meet up, because I just learned how to surf about 2 years ago, and I'm like so addicted, man. It's like my favorite passion in life now. So
I love you even more, buddy. I love you even more.
I just wish that I didn't wait 30 years to start. Okay, so two things is that I think that what we're talking about here in a summarization, write this down. This phrase is a good phrase to anchor into. Outer experiences are a reflection of inner reality.
Mm-hmm.
Outer experiences are a reflection of inner reality. What's happening inside of you, okay, is what ultimately is happening outside of you, because we're all looking at things through our own perceptual filter. Now, with Monica's question, which is getting hit with anxieties during the day, I'm going to start by giving you another phrase that's deep, but write it down and reflect on it, which is how you relate to yourself when going through the issue is the issue. How you relate to yourself when going through the issue is the issue. So, Monica, you're experiencing anxiety midday, okay? And you've lost your center, is what you're describing. Guess what? Happens to me several times a day, so you're not alone. It's in that moment that the black belt practice is to notice the anxiety, to slow down. As Daniel said to me, as he whispered to me 2 decades ago, why is it that everybody blows off on time when they need it the most? This is a good example. This would be just a check-in with yourself. Like, all right, find your breath, slow it down. What am I feeling right now? Feeling anxiety. Oh, wow. Why am I feeling anxiety? Well, because there's just too many things going on, or because I'm worried about that loan. Yeah, you're worried. Yeah, because you care. Because you don't want anybody to be angry with you. Find your breath, get compassionate with yourself. Notice the difference in your breath, how it gets deeper and slows down, how your heart rate will start to temper, and then evoke some gratitude. Shift the energy back to, it's no different than the morning routine, and there's a myriad of different opportunities during your morning. Daniel highlighted what he does by getting into child's pose and praying. Okay, maybe you go into prayer in that moment, or maybe you go into slow breathing or some type of meditation, or maybe there's a ballad of music that really works for you, that kind of shifts you. But know yourself well enough to know what it will take for you to then shift back into the center. Okay. But in that moment, the key thing is to have self-compassion. Yeah, I'm stressed right now. Things are flying too fast. I've lost my center. No judgment of self, but you do have to stop. And I'm not talking about for an hour. I'm talking about for 3 minutes. Stopping for 3 minutes, shutting off your computer screen, putting your phone on airplane mode, giving yourself the gift of your own presence for 180 seconds. And closing your eyes, finding your breath, breathing into your heart center, slowing your pace, sending a little bit of love to yourself that you're struggling right now and stressed out and feeling anxiety. That's my suggestion. Daniel, what about you?
So fantastic. There's all sorts of research and brain science behind changing our physical state. So if you feel anxious, the best thing to do is to move. If you can actually move out of that environment that you're in. And for most of us, if you can just go get some fresh air for 2-3 minutes. I have no idea where you're at in the whole spectrum of belief and of some level of faith, which all of us humans have. For me, I would say that there's 1 or 2 verses that help me that I've memorized. So I memorize scripture because that memory, it helps me understanding the power for me of God's word. I remember it and I will pray through that. And just like Tim said, none of us are immune to the anxieties and stresses that come with the storms of life, and I feel them. So changing, getting outside, standing up, you are looking for that deep breathing. That deep breathing slows down what's happening in the back of your brain. You've got a little part of your brain that's releasing some some chemicals throughout you that will cause it to be very difficult for you to think clearly and lucidly. So you change your physical state. For me, you pray. You might want to repeat a verse. We're saying very much similar practices, similar things with just a little bit different worldview. I want to show you guys something, and then I think we're done. This is a high-end PowerPoint here. I hope it works. So understand this pyramid. As we send you off, we've talked about thinking. What you think impacts what you believe. What you think and what you believe impact how you feel. What you think, believe, and feel, feelings, us feeling humans, impact our actions and our reactions. And all of that impacts the results that we get in business and in life. And the pyramid doesn't just go up and it goes down. It's something that we're always working on. The one thing that we can control that will have the greatest impact is this very bottom of the pyramid. And that is, what are you putting into your mind? So if you're going to take the big nugget away from Tim and myself, I'm going to tell you it's the morning. And what is it you're putting into your mind? What's the conversation? What is it you're thinking about? Improve the food that your mind is eating. It impacts your beliefs. It impacts your feelings. That impacts your interactions, your relationships, and ultimately the results that you get in business and in life. Tim Braheem, I love you so much.
Thanks, brother.
So good to be with you. So good.
Great to be with you too.
And
So good to be with you, girl. I'm proud of you.
Daniel and Tim, thank you guys so much. You guys were incredible. I know my heart is soft and with a lot of gratitude right now. And the comments that are coming in from the community are so thankful for you guys for this Friday. And Mortgage Coach community, you know, let's do what they say. Let's start our mornings a little bit differently and take the challenge that Tim said for 30 days. Try 30 days of changing something. And you know me, guys, I'm gonna hold you accountable. So I'm gonna put it in Facebook. Let's do 30 days of this and report back here on January 1st or 2nd, our next meeting, and say, how did those 30 days change? Don't let the news, don't let the fear, don't let everything drive you. Let what you believe feed into your hearts how you want your day to be. And I think it'll be great. So guys, bless you and thank you so much for being here. And Mortgage Coach community, we love you to death. And thank you guys all for participating today.
Thank you for having us, and thank you to everybody that was on this call. And I'm watching all these really beautiful comments and feeling a lot of gratitude and thanks for your attendance. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Super fun. It's good talking about the important stuff, people. I wish you all a very happy holidays. If you need anything, reach out. We're always here to help.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
For sure.